Welcome to the Let's Fix Construction podcast. Let's Fix Construction is an avenue to offer creative solutions, separate myths from facts, and erase misconceptions about the architecture, engineering, and construction industry.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's fix you and me. Every broken thing that we can see, all the pain and all the misery. Let's start tomorrow.
Let's join your Let's Fix Construction co-hosts, Eric Lucier and Charisse Lakeside.
Hello, everyone, and welcome once again to another edition of the Let's Fix Construction podcast. We are up to episode number 7. I'm your co-host, Eric Lucier, and with me, as always, 3,000 miles away as we speak, it's my good friend, Charisse Lakeside. Say hello, Charisse.
Hello, Charisse.
They cannot see your wave, just so you know. This is like Radio 101. You don't nod, you don't shake your head, you don't wave. No one can see that except for me. So in case anyone did not realize, Charisse and I do live on opposite coasts. Let's Fix Construction was founded this way through a conversation through social media one day, through Twitter direct message. We're 3,000 miles apart. We founded this website and this blog August 2 years ago now. 3,000 miles apart. And we actually record this podcast 3,000 miles apart. And thanks to technology, we kind of do the FaceTime thing and record our voices that way, secondarily, through our microphones. And we kind of meld them together and produce an episode. And it's great. It's come out a lot better than I thought it was going to. And I've had some people comment on the production quality of the show. So it works. You had no idea, I'm hoping, that Charisse and I were not in the same room. So they totally didn't see that wave. And I saw the wave. And thanks for putting up with us. And we really do appreciate it. So do you want to do an intro of any sort, Charisse?
No, I think we should just get right down to business.
And just like our workshops, and just if you've seen any of our Let's Fix Construction workshops over the last year or so, you may know that it can go in any direction at any time. And I've been reading a lot about podcasts and preparations as of late, and they say that you need to sit down and plan them out. Well, anybody knows me, I'm not a great planner. I'm a bit of a procrastinator, and my brain kind of goes in any direction at any given time, kind of why Charisse has actually nicknamed me Squirrel. So I don't like to plan them. I kind of like to go where the moment goes. And so we kind of come up with a quick general topic at the start of the podcast, and we kind of go where the moment goes. So she's kind of just nodding from 3,000 miles away, and I'm just kind of going with the flow. But we thought we'd kind of do a coupler, that is, if you would, with this Let's Fix Construction podcast, and we'd kind of piggyback with our latest blog post, and that was one that I just wrote on LinkedIn. And I wrote it on LinkedIn because of the importance that we feel that platform is for social media, but we should also touch on social media as a whole because we feel it is an extremely vital component of our day-to-day lives in for multiple reasons. And it's actually one of the reasons why one of the workshops that we have put together and we have done in the past is on social media and AEC. And social media for you, Charisse, you adopted it much later than I did. I've actually been a LinkedIn user for 10 years, a Facebook user for 10 years, and I'm approaching, I believe, 9 years on Twitter. But it took a really aha moment for you to kind of jump onto the social media bandwagon, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, for me, social media, in all honesty, I didn't start using social media besides Facebook until about 6 years ago, a little over 6 years ago. And I really, I'm a little bit of a type A personality. Anybody out there who knows me already knows that. I work pretty hard, and my attitude was what I hear a lot of people say to me now all the time and everywhere I go is, I don't have time for that. And why do I need to send out messages about what I'm having for lunch? And I had a lot of the same misconceptions a lot of people have about social media. And sure, there's people that use it that way, but I really didn't understand how it could be used. I certainly didn't understand how it could be used professionally, and how it could expand your reach. And I was at some conference, and Joy Davis, who was a former staff member at CSI, did a presentation on social media, and I had just not met her, met her not too long before that, and she encouraged me to come, and I told her I thought social media was stupid. And if anybody's ever met Joy, you don't tell Joy anything stupid. And so she invited me to come to attend her session, hear about it, and tell me that at the end of the session. Tell me again that it was stupid. And so I did. I sat in her session. It was a very dynamic session. She explained a lot of, just kind of a 101 level for those of us like me that didn't really use it, the benefits of using it and some of the basics of using it. And by the time I was done with the session, while I wasn't convinced it would have any benefits for me, I was convinced I should try. I should try it out. And one of the first things she advised me to do was to get on LinkedIn and set up a profile, and to get on Twitter. And then she said, just go to her account and follow everybody she knows. She was connected to a lot of people in CSI, and I'm involved with CSI. And so that's how I got started. I believe I'm coming very close to 80,000 tweets anytime now. I have close to 3,000 connections on LinkedIn. I use social media pretty heavily, and it's been one of the single biggest benefits to my career and my network in the last 6 years than I ever probably could have ever dreamed was possible.
So she kind of encouraged you to dip your toe in the water. We'll use a beach analogy because we've been talking a lot about beaches lately and the ultimate need to really have a vacation. But essentially what she encouraged you to do, and this is something that we encourage people to do, is just dip your toe in the water. The great thing about social media is it's free. Yes, it takes time, but it is free to set up your major profiles for the major accounts, and it's always free to listen. And that's the number one thing we tell people to do before you really send out your first tweet or put out a first post on another platform is sit back and observe. Take a look at what's going on. What are the people that you're following, which you respect doing, what they are saying, and kind of take their lead. Observe what's going on before you start spewing, because spewing is a tough word to use, but really that's a lot of what incorrect users of social media do. We talked in the past about how Twitter is ultimately the fire hose of social media, where if you don't fine-tune your platform's listening devices, it's basically like drinking from that fire hose, and it's just constantly coming at you at all directions. But there are some amazing people out there doing some incredible things on social media, and I'm thankful every day that you attended that presentation from Joy. One of the great things that she did before she left the Institute was get out there to the regions, to the chapters, and presented on the benefits of social media. One of many presentations that she actually did. I had a chance to see Joy do this presentation in New York City, Metro New York City CSI chapter, and actually picked her up and brought her down to the Allentown chapter of CSI, now Greater Lehigh Valley, where she did that presentation as well, and went to Construct and followed whatever presentation she did. And she was a great presenter. It was a great loss to CSI, but I remember it was probably it had to have been the year after you and I met in Phoenix, perhaps, at Construct, which is how we met 6 years ago. We pitched a social media presentation for Construct. Is that right? Was that Nashville that we pitched that for?
I believe it was. And I was pretty new to the whole social media game at that point. in comparison to how I use it now, but we did. I mean, our presentation wasn't accepted, so we didn't do it.
Right. But we both recognize that need, that especially because the age of a lot of CSI construct attendees, that we presumed, probably not wrong doing so, that a lot of people were really nervous of dipping their toes into social media. So we wrote a presentation on really social media 101, if you will, and pitched it to speak at Construct. I believe it was in Nashville. And it was unfortunately turned down because ultimately they said, oh, we don't need a 101 social media presentation here at Construct. You know, we're 301 level audience. But I think you fast forward really 5 years and it's still needed. And that's one of the reasons why we here at Let's Fix Construction put together a social media and AEC presentation that we had the chance to present down in Frisco at the South Central Region Conference earlier this year. And it's still needed. It's, you know, ultimately a 101, but like we've talked about in the past, you know, our Specs 101 presentation that we do on architectural specifications and project delivery is ultimately named 101, but the level of detail and the amount of information that we present in that 101 goes much further than what one would expect from a program titled 101. And our social media in that hour-long presentation really hits around, you know, really the major social media platforms. And when we talk about social media, for us, there's, you know, literally hundreds and hundreds of platforms, but ultimately it's the big ones. It's Facebook, it's Twitter, it's LinkedIn, Instagram, YouTube. The visual components of social media are really starting to shine through. YouTube video is really taking off. Instagram has recently rolled out Instagram TV, basically allowing people to share up to an hour-long video now. So it's all about not just voice and where the future is going with voice, with our Google Home and Alexa and podcasts, but also video and the visual components of people's lives. And there are literally people documenting their day-to-day. When you talk about posting not just what someone has for lunch or what's for dinner, these people are having their lives documented fully, basically 24/7, and having it edited down and putting it out there for public consumption, and it's being viewed. And for anybody that may have maybe a teen, a younger millennial in their household, they're familiar with the YouTube generation now, and these folk that are earning hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions, by being YouTube celebrities. And we live in a different generation, certainly. And what we're ultimately trying to do with social media and the AEC, and really our social media 101, is just make people not afraid. Put them really where you were after attending Joy's presentation, Charisse, and really getting them to just open their eyes, open their ears, and not be afraid to open up one of these free accounts and dabble in it. So, you know, what are some of the things that you learned, you'd say, very early on as you were dabbling in social media? Anything come immediately to mind?
Well, for me, when I was first getting started, I'll be perfectly honest, I was really intimidated about using social media, and in all honesty, putting myself out there and looking like an idiot. I wouldn't do things right, or, you know, there's rules of the road. And like you mentioned, one of Joy's best pieces of advice that she gave me was she told me, just go troll people for a while, Charisse. Just go watch how other people, okay. I mean,
Troll's got a different connotation.
I know. But she said, just go watch people. I think it's funny, but she said, just watch how they formulate a tweet, or how they post something on LinkedIn, and how they communicate. And I think one of the things that I learned very early that made social media kind of more well-defined for me was, for me, they're like little neighborhoods, or certain things that you do in each neighborhood. For me, and people use things differently, like people use Facebook for business. I don't really go look for much about business on Facebook. Facebook for me is for family and friends, and personal things. I will look up some business stuff, but that's not really where I go. I go Google if I want information. LinkedIn is about sharing industry knowledge and connecting with other people in your industry, but more about sharing information or looking for jobs. But I think it's become more of a knowledge sharing site than it is maybe the job search site that it may have started out as lots of years ago. And then Twitter is a place to actually build relationships. And that was one thing that I found a little bit unbelievable, when I was told that. You go there to make friends. And I could not, I'm a real touchy-feely person. And so I need chemistry. I need to look you in the eye to have a connection, I thought. And then I started connecting with people on LinkedIn, and I started very tentatively commenting on other people's posts and reading articles they shared and sharing my opinion. And now fast forward 6 years later, and I have friends all over the country, and people I truly consider my friends, and a great many of them I've never met. And I don't think I realized that was really possible, but they are my Twitter activity and LinkedIn activity is centered mostly around work. I'll get a little silly on Twitter once in a while about some of my escapades, like jumping out of an airplane. But for the most part, I'm connected to other architects and engineers and contractors and product reps in the industry, where we all share, a common passion for the business that we're in. And the more different disciplines I'm connected to, the more knowledge I get from different viewpoints, which I find very valuable. Same with LinkedIn. A funny story, when I first joined LinkedIn, I have what some would call a quick start personality. I've talked about that before. And so I like to skip a lot of steps and just get something done. And when I joined LinkedIn, I didn't read all of the rules about how LinkedIn was supposed to work. I just jumped in and started setting up a profile. And then I decided, well, I'm just going to send a connection request to every person on the planet on LinkedIn that I can find that's got the word architect, contractor, product rep, or engineer in their name or their profile. Well, apparently you're not supposed to do that. So I sent in a couple days, I probably sent out 6,000 connection requests. And then I went into LinkedIn jail because apparently you're not supposed to do that. And so they banned me from sending connection requests for, I think, 3 months because I was breaking the rules. Because, basically they want you to send connection requests to people you know. The thing that was kind of valuable about getting in trouble was before I got banned from LinkedIn for 3 months, or from sending connection requests, a whole lot of those people that I sent connection requests to accepted them. And I've been connected with them ever since. And I see the information that they share, and the knowledge that they share, and some of them I comment back and forth on, and I've learned a great deal from these people. So I still send connection requests to people I don't know. I'm just a little bit more selective about how many I send at one time. So I've managed to stay out of the doghouse since that first experience.
It's interesting, the philosophies of some LinkedIn users. I've been a LinkedIn user, turns out, for just over 10 years now. We're going to be releasing this podcast episode in the middle of July. The latest Let's Fix Construction blog post that I had the chance to write was on LinkedIn. I had no idea it was a 10-year anniversary for me. Early on, I used it very conservatively, or I should say traditionally, where it was all about only connecting to those you know, and was apprehensive to reach out to strangers. And then it just the more you use it, that is, the more you get comfortable with it and notice that, you get connection requests from absolute strangers. And within reason, I accept many of them, unless there's some real reason why I shouldn't. I actually make a point of, in my security settings, hiding my connections to folk, because if I'm connected to a competitor or somebody that may want to get in and take a look at who I'm connected to, that's kind of a hidden thing. But certainly opened up over the years, and I've gotten a handful of connection requests just over the last week, where they're certainly not people that I knew by any means, but I've gone through and clicked accept. So One LinkedIn tip I will put out there in regards to connection requests, unless it's somebody that you're very, very close to and you know there's not any reason why, personalize your connection request. I mean, I hit on the importance of completing your profile in my last blog post by having that picture online, because I can't believe the number of either blank pictures or improper pictures on LinkedIn. But send a personalized connection request. One of the things that I do after giving an AIA Learning Unit box lunch or giving a Let's Fix Construction workshop presentation is I will go home with the attendee list and look up every single person and send them a personal note with a quick little thank you and asking them if we can connect on LinkedIn. And even if that's unnecessary, it at least is it's like the modern day Hallmark thank you card, if you will. But it's a separator, because I can tell you that out of my, let's say, 1,200 connections that I have on LinkedIn, if 5% of them have given me a personalized invitation, I would be surprised if it's that high. So it's something to set you apart. If you're a product rep like myself, you're always looking for a separator. Why be like your competition or like some other folk in the industry that are all doing it the same way? Set yourself apart. LinkedIn is a great way to share knowledge, as you mentioned earlier, and to deliver constant information out there. It's a way to really be in front of your audience without, let's say, spamming them by sending them emails or signing them up for your constant contact list. It's a way to be right in front of your audience that choose to accept and connect with you and receive your promo materials, if you will. But you got to keep in mind that with any social media, you need to be very conscientious about how much you promote. Probably follow the 80-20 rule in this, just like you do in everything else really in life. 80% just casual conversation, chiming in, engaging with people, to 20% promotion. You should probably have it inverted, if you will, because normally it'd be 80% of the higher return method. But on this one, let's say the 20%. Don't make it all about promotion all the time, because you're going to basically turn out your audience, have them tune you right out to the fact that they just want to basically unconnect from you. So be very conscientious about what you put out there on LinkedIn. So you saw the power of LinkedIn firsthand last year, Charisse, in August, just before we went to construct in Providence. You were caught a little off guard, I would think, by being downsized at the firm you were at. And we kept in touch, obviously, through that, but, you were a little bit blindsided by losing your job and didn't quite know where you were going to go. And you saw the power that LinkedIn really offers an active user firsthand. You want to talk a little bit about that?
I did. I think that was probably one of my biggest epiphanies or realizations about using social media and the power that it really does have, because I have been using it pretty heavily now for almost 6 years, and so I know my way around the block a little more, and I've made a lot of friends, and it's had impact on my life in other ways. Like, I've shared speaking engagements I've done and had somebody from social media contact me and said, hey, would you consider coming to speak here? So I've seen some of this power, but I don't think it really hit me just how far the reach was until I got laid off last August. And, that's the first time in my life, number one, that I've been laid off. And a lot of people were laid off that day, and it was a tough day. And I came home going, it's never an easy thing to go through, and thinking, am I going to be able to find a job? What's the market like out there? I've had 4 jobs in my entire adult life, and I've never had to interview before. I remember having this conversation with you. So I said, I guess I need to do a resume. And I have done nothing but a quickie 5-minute typewritten resume maybe once in my adult life. And I think your response was something along the lines of, Charisse, nobody's doing resumes anymore. CSVs or something like that. I don't know. And so the next day on LinkedIn, I changed my job position in my company to currently seeking opportunities, total world domination. Didn't post anything, just changed that one thing. Well, people get a notification when you change something in your profile if you have it set up that way. And all of a sudden, I started getting emails. And I started getting phone calls. And I started getting direct messages. And I'm not talking about 5 or 10. I'm talking like 100 in the first couple of days from people all over the country. And it was blowing my mind. I'm sitting there going, well, I guess I'm not going to have a hard time finding a job. Question is now, where do I want to work? About a week in, I decided to put an official post on LinkedIn saying, basically, I've been laid off. I'm looking for opportunities, just a couple basic information. If any of my friends out there know of anything, please send it my direction. That post, the last time I looked at it, which has been a long time, had over 18,000 views. My phone really exploded after the official post went out, and emails and friends from all over the industry. A huge portion of them, people I don't even know that I'm connected to on LinkedIn or on Twitter, contacted me. Sharice, I know of this firm that's looking. One of the more notable emails that I received that I still kind of chuckle about today, a principal at an architecture firm in Memphis sent me a very long, detailed email about how wonderful it is to live in Memphis and would I consider coming there to interview. And he was telling me about the music and the places to hang out and the things to see and the culture of the area. And he really put a lot of effort into this email that he sent me. And come to find out that the reason he messaged me was because he followed the blog that I published on LinkedIn. And while you may think nobody's watching and you may think nobody's paying attention when you put things out there if you don't get a lot of comments, that's not the case. I was just at a conference, and almost every conference I go to now, somebody walks up and says, oh, you're the Kraken, because my hashtag on Twitter is CSI Kraken. People, again, that I don't even know are watching or following things that I'm sharing or other things that I'm doing. The reach is huge in so many different ways, and it has so many benefits that anybody in any industry, honestly, is crazy for not being involved. Product reps, which I'll let you speak to them, but my pet peeve about product reps in LinkedIn are I think even more can have even more benefits that they can receive just based on the nature of the work that they do if they use it properly.
Right. That's one of the things we hit on heavily on one of our other workshops. She's a specifier. He's a product rep, different roles, same goals, which we debuted last year at Construct in Providence and had the chance to give a few times since, is the importance of being found. And as a product rep, subcontractor like myself, working in indoor sport flooring for the last 12 and a half years now, it's really important that if my manufacturer can't be reached or they don't have my information out there, that I make sure that I have my information out there. So one of the things I say in our workshop that we do is I ask how many people have their own domain name, that registered literally their domainname.com. I'm one of them, and I still get an inquiry every now and then, but it has information on the product lines that I work with. One of the other things that I make sure we do is on LinkedIn, having the product lines out there, having contact information out there. Is the idea about being findable when it comes time to needing to be found, and flipping roles to what you do and your deadlines, which we've talked about tremendously offline, how crazy they are nowadays, how 11th hour they are. It's extremely vital that when it comes time for you to place a product into a spec, that you get the information in a timely fashion. And it's literally leaving an extreme small window of opportunity for you to get the information that you need, and you are moving on to a secondary product if you cannot find that info. So the last thing I ever wanted anyone to do when they were looking for me or looking for my product is having them make 2, 3, 4 phone calls. And in some previous roles that I've had, that's exactly what would happen. The architect would call, the manufacturer, and the manufacturer would say, well, I can't help you. myself, but let me send you up to the regional sales manager. The regional sales manager would give out the office number, and then the office number would be given, and then they call the office. Well, no, I can't help you because you're in, at the time I was living in Pennsylvania, so let me give you this person's number. So there you go, 4 phone calls right there when it came down to the 11th hour and information was needed. So Google is everybody's friend in this day and age, and this is something that I stressed in my LinkedIn blog post on the Let's Fix Construction blog the other day. Is Google loves LinkedIn, and I see this firsthand every single day. If I get a list of general contractors or estimators, this is a perfect circumstance. Just the other day, I basically got a list of estimators on a project that was bidding where I didn't have any email addresses. All I had was their name and their firm and then phone numbers and such, but I needed email addresses. So what I was doing was jumping on the web, putting in their name, putting in their firm name. The first result, if not 1, 2, 3 on every single one of them, was LinkedIn. There was one gentleman where every result for a page and a half was LinkedIn because it was actually going into international LinkedIn pages. And that was the only results found for this guy online. There was no email address whatsoever. But if you haven't noticed that when you're Googling someone's name and then their firm name, that LinkedIn is the top response, you're missing something because it's there every single time. And we talk about this to anyone really that listens, is that, how many people go to the second page of Google? The importance of being found SEO-wise in those top 3 results is extremely vital. And LinkedIn and Google basically are run hand in hand, and utilize that to the best of your capability. Fill out your profile 100%, and I would say that's literally, because there is a gauge that shows you your completion level on LinkedIn profile. If you don't have an account, I need to ask why. And I'm 10 years in on using LinkedIn, but you just saw it firsthand. Again, it's all firsthand experience. A lot of the things that we talk about and we can relate to, you just attended a conference in Maine that involved product reps. We talked about this on the last podcast. You left with a program and tried finding some of these people, and you could not find them.
Well, and that's a common thing. I've been to, as a spec writer, there's a number of different conferences that I've been to. And obviously, the biggest relationship for people who do what I do is with product reps. I write the specs for all the products on the buildings, and the product reps help me figure out what I need. So I have a lot of interaction with product reps. And so every conference I go to typically has some kind of directory of everybody that attended. And I will sit down like you, and I will send a little personalized message. And it may be even kind of a stock message that looks personal, but I will cut and paste that into each individual connection request that I send to the people I met at that conference and say, I'd like to connect with you. It never fails. In every conference I go to, I would say I can't find probably 30 to sometimes as high as 50% of the product reps in that directory on LinkedIn. That is where I go to connect with everybody. That is where I keep track of my connections. And if I need to call one of those product reps, which is a whole nother topic for a different blog post or podcast later, but when I need to go get a hold of somebody, our schedules are so accelerated, and oftentimes decisions are being made right, wrong, or otherwise at the 11th hour, and I need information right now. And an example at my last firm that happened is the day the project was going out, the design team decided they wanted a different window for the building. This is a multi-story high-rise. And so we're talking about a lot of money in windows. And they wanted a different window, and I went to the manufacturer's website. In order to see their product information and their guide specs, you had to register. So I registered on the website because I had to have this information. After I registered, I got a confirmation email saying, thank you for registering, and we will send you notice within 2 days on whether we approve your registration. I'm sitting there going, are Are you freaking kidding me? I need millions of dollars of windows right now, and you're going to wait 2 days to let me know whether I'm approved to look at your stuff on your website. And manufacturers have this misguided notion that they're protecting their information by making you register, and it makes me laugh because their competitors knew what they had before they even put it out on the street. I'm sitting there going, okay, what do I do now? So I get on LinkedIn and I search for this company name, and I want to see every employee that works at this company, because I also tried calling the company before I got on LinkedIn, and I got some automated voicemail service. I needed the information right now. I could not find somebody from this company to specify millions of dollars worth of windows. Tell me there isn't something wrong with that. So nowadays, when I need something, usually the first place I go look is see if I can figure out pretty quickly on LinkedIn who the rep is in my region, or somebody close by, and I'll call them up and say, give me a phone number, I can get to somebody right away. But if you're not there, I can't find you.
That's one of the big differences between websites and social media. For those that are anti-social media, they're like, oh, we've got a website. Websites are very static by nature. And those good websites are constantly being updated, especially as information and general updates, but they have new content being provided, usually with blogs or news. It's not outdated. They're certainly not. The last thing you should see on a website, and this is always a red flag for me, is you go check out the news section and it's 2 years old, if not 3 years old, 4 years old, 6 years old. But websites by nature are very static. Social media, conversely, could not be more up to date and now. And for those that want to know one of the benefits of Twitter, to me, it's how I get news. It's how I get everything. It is so instantaneous, the information that is delivered on Twitter. Any major news development in this day and age, it travels like wildfire on Twitter. And while granted there's a lot of, I hate to use the term fake news, but while there's a lot of misinformation and whatnot out there, there's a lot of great information as well, but it's extremely late breaking, and it's very much now. It's current. It could not be more fresh off the assembly line. One of the true benefits of using any social media platform. I read about a new product line that one of our manufacturers was working with, just released yesterday. I jumped over to their website, nowhere to be seen. But it had been shared socially on a Twitter account that I follow for Floor Covering Weekly. It was a major press release that went out there. It was going around making the PR circuit for flooring, but it wasn't even on the company website yet. It's website static. It takes a little bit of time for anybody to get in there. So don't be afraid to use social media to promote your information, to have it out there. Complete that profile to 100%. Have that info out there. Twitter is a great search engine. YouTube, for those that don't know, granted it's owned by Google, but it's the number 2 search engine in the world. I just posted a video earlier today for my flooring on an encapsulation that we did a few years ago on a hazardous materials floor with a new gymnasium floor. I made sure I was very conscientious about completing my description in full, knowing that there was a chance that Google was going to run through there and index the information and have it found and make it get out there into the web. So Google loves, because they own them, YouTube, so the search function is huge in that. Facebook, maybe not so much, but LinkedIn, I jumped on it earlier today. It's a little bit more finicky for if you're searching for a company name, because my capital letters and I think the use of an ampersand was off, but I was looking for a company earlier today and I was unable to find them. But meanwhile, I went to their website, and LinkedIn was one of the 2 social media platforms promoted on their website. While I think of it, speaking of which, this to me is the biggest pet peeve in the world. If your website has social media icons promoted, they're usually top right, bottom left, they're somewhere prominent on the main page. If those accounts aren't being utilized, or the hyperlink is broken, or even the account is not used, have marketing, have IT, have whomever remove them from the website. because there's nothing worse than being like, oh, they have a Twitter account. Let me go look. And oh, they haven't tweeted in 4.5 years. What's the point of having that information out there? You want to make sure that if you're promoting your social media platforms on your website, someone is using social media actively. And actively can be as little as once a week, but preferably you're putting information out there much more frequently than that. And while it's essentially a social media no-no to use the same exact message through all of the accounts, it's better than nothing. So you want to think about your audience. Who is on LinkedIn following you? Who is on Twitter following you? Who's on your Facebook page following you? And while you may be promoting the same blog post like we do with Let's Fix Construction, I always try to change the quote or change the line a little bit, thinking about who is there, who's going to be seeing it. Always important to know, and we talk about this in our social media and AEC presentation, is that your likes on your Facebook page, so few percent are seeing them. It's down around 5% of your total number of likes are seeing your post organically, unless you're throwing money at it. Of course, Facebook needs to make money, so their advertising platform is that outlet for them. Unless you throw money at a sponsored post, there's no way that all of your likes are going to be seeing your post. So you need to know that if you're relying primarily on Facebook for promotion and marketing and you have 1,000 likes, 5% of those are going to be seeing them. And Instagram, I don't quite know the algorithm and the stats on that yet, but of course they changed up their feed and it's a little bit all over the place as to who is seeing your post. But basically, the more engagement you see, the more likes you have, especially right off the bat, the higher up in the feed of your followers that is going to be seen. So engagement is a huge thing when it comes to algorithms. One of the things that I think that we both agree on, Charisse, that you and I both like is Twitter's algorithm. While it's being messed with a little bit, it's still probably the most natural in the industry, and that who you follow is who you're going to see in calendar timeline order, which is nice. But if you had your choice, if you could only follow one social media platform going forward, what would that be and why?
Oh God, that's a hard one.
I thought I'd throw something at you.
Honestly, that's really a difficult choice, because I use the three that I use differently. But I suppose if somebody was backing me into a corner, I would probably keep Twitter, if that was the only one that I could keep, because I can do most of what I do everywhere else there. But for me, people use social media differently, and that's a couple of things I don't know that we touched on clearly. Is number one, you don't necessarily have to be promoting something or selling something, or some people are promoting their firm, some people are selling a product, some people, me being one of them, are really doing none of those things. On at least on Twitter, I'm on Twitter to meet people, to make connections in the industry, to learn from them, to get exposure to what the different disciplines do, and go to different events. We just went to the AIA convention a few weeks ago, and I'd never been to the AIA convention before. And part of my motivation for wanting to go there is a number of people that I've made friends with on Twitter, that were going to be there, that besides that we were speaking there, that I've never met. For me, Twitter is about making connections. For some people, it's about promoting their product, although I will tell you right now, don't sell all the time. Another thing I don't think we touched on clearly enough is the whole fire hose of information, especially on Twitter. I think it needs to be made really clear that you can refine what you're getting by using lists, by limiting who you follow. I follow everybody I follow people that are 98% in our industry. I don't follow Justin Bieber because I don't want to connect to 12 million 13-year-old girls. And so being...
Okay, well, in case you missed it, just to let you know, he is now engaged to Haley Baldwin.
Yes, I know.
I just wanted to make sure that you're aware.
Yes, I'm aware. Well, I don't follow him anyway. He's a little on the young side for me. But, so understanding that you can kind of craft your experience depending on what you're interested in and how you're intending to use it. But if you hold the gun to my head, yeah, I think I'd probably keep Twitter.
And you've said it numerous times in this podcast, is that we didn't mention, and that's very true. I mean, we are just cracking the surface. We talked before we started recording about what we were going to talk about in this episode. We mainly mentioned that it was going to be social media. We could talk about any one of these platforms and tell stories in regards to them and fill 45 minutes an hour, one platform. And we're hitting a little bit of social media in general at going on 45 minutes now. And we do that in our social media and AEC workshop presentation. It's only an hour long. It's just enough to crack the surface of all of these great platforms. And they are so specialty nowadays. Firsthand, because I think I introduced you to it. I mean, there's a craft beer drinker social media network called Untapped that is out there. And there are so many different social media platforms that are under the radar that are extremely popular, that unless you're involved, it's very niche, you would have no idea. All we're talking about is these big four, these big five, and we're still barely glazing over the surface. There's so much to know, and there's so much to learn, and there's so much time that can be spent on it. It's something that I have a problem with, is trying to lay off social media at times. I often wonder what it would be like to unplug for in a day, not to mention sometimes just a couple of hours. I always feel like, unfortunately, I'm going to miss something. And I like staying in tune with what's going on in this world. And, Facebook is usually personal, staying in touch with family and friends. Some that, it's my 25-year high school reunion this weekend. That's how we organized the 20-year reunion, was through Facebook. A lot of people that I had seen since June of 1993, we were Facebook friends anyhow. You kind of stay, in touch with them on the, here and there, but it's mainly about seeing what they're doing, what they're posting. You've got LinkedIn is the professional end, and there is more picture sharing and knowledge sharing and video sharing going on there now than I ever remember seeing the first 9 years of me using this. And it may be a matter of who I'm following, and that's a lot of flooring installers, but I'm seeing more gym flooring finishes from truly blue collar installers that are out there running sanding machines, and their engagement levels are extremely high. And I know that they are receiving inquiries. Heck, I reached out to somebody through my connection in there to get pricing on a project in regards to gym floor refinishing. So there's work and money exchanging on the outside of social media. It's just a matter of getting involved. Twitter, you mentioned, complete fire hose. For those that don't understand it, it's just a matter of grabbing an account, listening for a while, following some people. Go to, say, at Fix Construction or at CSI Construction, and just take a look at what's going on in the industry, just from those two accounts, not to mention those that we follow and follow us. But there's a lot of great content being shared out there nowadays. The sky's the limit. It's a matter of, what you want to do with it and how you want to use it. And we're more than happy to talk to you more about it. If you want to reach out personally, professionally, we're always glad to kind of share our 2 cents on it. We do the social media and AEC, Social Media 101 workshop for Let's Fix Construction. Feel free to reach out to us about that. We'd be glad to come out and present that to your chapter, to your region, to your firm, and explain more about the benefits of using social media. But this is something that we could talk about much, much longer, and encourage people to just, dabble in it if you're not already. And if you are, make sure you're utilizing it to the best of your ability. I encourage you to go grab the latest Let's Fix Construction blog post on LinkedIn that I published, and read through that and make sure you're using LinkedIn to the best of your ability. So there's no real reason to continue to beat a dead horse. You got any last words, last thoughts as we wrap up this episode?
I think the last thing that I would want to share with somebody who maybe doesn't see the value or doesn't use social media is going back to the comment I hear most often is that I don't have time. You can do a lot of damage, so to speak. You can make a big impact with very little time every day. In less than 5 minutes a day, you can start getting a message out there. You can start connecting with people. You don't have to. You hear that I've tweeted almost 80,000 times. I am not saying that everybody needs to do that. You can very much craft your experience and still make a difference and still connect with people you're trying to connect to or send a message you're trying to send. So, and it really doesn't take that long to learn either. It's not as complicated as some people perceive it to be before they start using it. So I think those are my last two little nuggets of wisdom I'd like to share.
Right. I agree. And I think there's two philosophies of it out there. Some of the, let's say, older generation are ones that are kind of perhaps leery of trying new things. And then we have the millennial generation, something that we talk about a great deal offline and as well as through Fixed Construction, and the number of people that are coming into it that have grown up within technology and they are not afraid to try new things. And if it's not fitting them anymore, they just cast it aside. There's no reason to believe that if you pick up Twitter and you don't think it's for you, just cast it aside, delete your account. There's no harm in taking a few minutes to take a look at things, maybe try it out for a week or two, but don't be afraid to just kind of look at things and move on. So glad we had a chance to talk about this more. We're really trying to put a better foot forward in regards to the Let's Fix Construction podcast and getting our voices out there more consistently. So we thank you very much for tuning in. I know we just dropped an episode a few weeks ago that we hadn't done one in 5 months, but we are going to do a better job of putting one forward a couple of times a month at the very least. So, right? Charisse, you with me?
Right. Okay. I'm with you.
It's a matter of finding the time for us as we talk about finding time for social media. It's about finding a time to sit down and record the podcast. The worst part about it being 3,000 miles apart is the 3 hours difference between the two. Is Charisse is settling in from after work at 6 o'clock her time. It's already 9 p.m. my time. I think everybody notices their brain starts shutting down 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night local time. It's why we do better work first thing in the morning. So we're having to find our schedule meeting in the middle to sit down and do more of this podcast. But we are certainly going to be doing a better job of doing so. We're definitely looking to implement some guests and more diverse topics. So if you are interested in being a guest or suggesting a topic or writing for the Let's Fix Construction blog, please reach out. We can be reached at letsfixconstruction@gmail.com. Find all of our information on our website at letsfixconstruction.com. We're certainly out there on all the social media platforms. It's easy enough to drop Charisse or I a message. Let us know you're interested in writing a post, guesting on the blog, suggesting a topic. We want to get more diverse, have more voices, and we do want to hear from you because I've said this before. Let's Fix Construction is well more than just about Charisse and I. It's about construction in general, the future of our industry. That's architecture, engineers, construction, building owners, really all project parties of the built industry. So we're interested in hearing from some more people. So if you have a chance, please give us a like or a review on your favorite podcast player. We're available on all of them: Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Pocket Casts, what have you. We're on all of the mediums. Of course, you can find our podcast at letsfixconstruction.com, lfcpodcast.com. So thank you very much for tuning in. And Charisse, thank you for joining me this evening.
Thank you. We'll talk to you soon.
Absolutely. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you for listening to the Let's Fix Construction podcast. To hear other episodes, read our blogs from dozens of collaborators, and see where we'll be hosting our next live workshop, please visit letsfixconstruction.com. We're always looking for AEC professionals to contribute their industry solutions. To offer your support as a blogger or podcast guest, contact letsfixconstruction@gmail.com.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's fix you and me. Every broken thing that we can see, all the pain and all the misery. Let's start tomorrow. Let's build you and me a towering impossibility, a thing of art, a thing of beauty we can show. If it don't matter if it's new or old, and we don't have to wait until we're told. Let's fix it now before the iron's cold. We'll fix it once, we'll fix it thrice, as many times till it stays nice. A wondrous world this would be. Let's fix it, you and me. If all you see is what cannot be done, you'll surely miss out on the joyous fun. So come with me and we'll reject no one. I trust you know this ain't no joke. Let's pull together all the folk and we'll work on life's mystery. Let's fix it, you and me.